I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this. I always imagined my life would be more or less predictable, comfortable, maybe a little boring, but happy. I've been married to Jessica for 5 years, and for the most part, things were good. We had our routines down. Tuesday night was taco night, and Thursday was our designated date night at that little Italian place down the street. We had the perfect suburban life, a nice house, a golden retriever named Max, and a cozy backyard where we'd grill on weekends. But lately something felt off. I brushed it off at first. Jessica had been more distant, preoccupied with her job at the marketing agency. She'd come home late more often, and when she did, she'd have that annoying habit of scrolling through her phone instead of chatting with me. It started to gnaw at me, but I tried not to think too much into it. After all, we had a life to build, right? Last Tuesday, though, everything changed. I came home after a long day at work, excited to surprise her with takeout from her favorite restaurant. As I walked in, I saw Jessica's phone on the counter. It was unlocked. My heart raced, not because I wanted to snoop, but because I had a gut feeling something wasn't right. Curiosity got the better of me. I scrolled through her messages for about 5 minutes, and what I found shattered my world. There it was, plain as day, flirty texts with a guy named Mark. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss your touch, and the worst of it all, last night was incredible." My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't need to read anymore. I felt sick. This was the kind of betrayal people talk about but never think will happen to them. Just as I was piecing together what I had seen, Jessica walked in and snatched her phone from my hand. "Hey, what are you doing?" she snapped, her expression shifting from surprise to irritation in an instant. I stood there, frozen in disbelief, my hands trembling. I just saw your messages. What the hell, Jess?" She opened her mouth to respond, but then the words just tumbled out in a rush. "You're spoiling the surprise." Surprise? My mind raced. What surprise could possibly justify that kind of betrayal? I was caught off guard by her audacity, and all I could do was stare at her, my mind reeling. "Don't play games with me. I know about Mark," I said, my voice shaking. I wasn't angry yet, I was just completely blindsided. Jessica's demeanor shifted again, and she rolled her eyes. "It's not what you think. You're overreacting. Mark is just a friend from work." "Just a friend?" I scoffed, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "A friend doesn't say they miss your touch or talk about incredible nights together." She laughed, but it wasn't a joyful sound. "You're being ridiculous. You know how people talk these days. It's all just flirting, nothing serious." I could feel the rage boiling inside me. "So you're telling me it's just harmless? That's your excuse?" The denial was almost infuriating, especially since I had seen the evidence with my own eyes. The confrontation escalated quickly, and the tension in the air became suffocating. Jessica's behavior shifted between defensive and dismissive, further infuriating me. I felt betrayed, anger coursed through me. I loved this woman, and she had taken that love and thrown it away like it meant nothing. I wanted to scream, to shake her until she understood the gravity of what she was doing. But instead, I stood there, feeling hollow, like a shell of a man. I had always been the one to fix things, to smooth over the rough patches in our relationship, but this, I didn't know where to begin. As she continued to babble about how nothing was happening, the reality of my situation began to sink in. I started to realize I was standing on the precipice of a huge life decision. Did I want to fight for our marriage, or was it time to walk away? That night, I felt as if my entire world had been flipped upside down. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, and replayed the moment over and over in my head. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of betrayal that left me feeling utterly exhausted. Life could never be the same after this. I had to figure out how to move forward. What would I do? How much was I willing to fight for the woman who had broken my trust? The next few days felt like a blur. I went through the motions of my life, work, meeting friends, pretending like everything was fine, but inside I was a mess. My mind raced with thoughts of Jessica and her betrayal. I replayed our confrontation in my head a million times, trying to find some clue I might have missed. Why would she put me through this? Did she think I wouldn't find out? At night, however, when the world was silent, those feelings crept back. I'd lie in bed next to her, feeling the weight of the betrayal between us, an invisible barrier that felt insurmountable. I could hear her breathing, peaceful and innocent, but all I could think about were the words she had typed to Mark. It made me feel sick. On Thursday, Jessica suggested we go out for dinner, as was our tradition. I wasn't sure how to respond. Part of me wanted to lash out, to confront her with every detail I'd discovered, but I also craved normalcy. Maybe if we went through the motions, everything would magically fix itself. I agreed to dinner, but the entire time, I felt like I was acting in a play where I didn't know my lines. We sat at our usual table, and as she talked about her day at work, I found it difficult to concentrate. I watched her face, searching for any sign of guilt, but she seemed so carefree. "What's wrong?" she finally asked, her voice breaking through my thoughts. "Nothing," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just tired." I didn't want to talk about it there in public. I needed to gather my thoughts to plan my next move. After our meal, as we walked back to the car, I made a snap decision. "I want to talk about Mark," I said abruptly. Jessica stopped in her tracks, her expression shifting from confusion to annoyance. "Not this again," she groaned, crossing her arms defensively. "Jess, you can't just pretend like this isn't happening. I saw the messages. We need to address it," I insisted, my voice steady. She looked around, almost as if she was searching for an escape. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. It was just innocent fun. You know I love you." Her eyes darted away from mine, and I knew she was lying. Love doesn't mean texting another man about missing his touch, I shot back, feeling the anger bubble up again. I was done with her excuses. "Fine, I'll admit it. Maybe I've been a little flirty, but it didn't mean anything. You're always so busy and I just needed someone to talk to," she snapped, her voice rising. "But it's not like you're an angel either, are you? You're the one who spends all his time working." Her words hung in the air, and I felt a mix of frustration and disbelief. "This isn't about me. You're the one who's cheating." Somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew she was trying to deflect. Yet her accusation stung. The truth was, I had devoted so much time to my job, believing it would build a better future for us. I had thought that I was doing it for us. But now, standing there, it felt like I was losing more than I'd ever gained. We ended up in a heated argument in the parking lot, voices raised, and it felt like everyone was watching. I wanted to scream at her, but instead, I just felt hollow. This wasn't the woman I had married. She had turned into someone I didn't recognize, and it broke my heart to see her like this. After that night, things only got worse. I spent hours obsessing over the details I found in her texts. I found myself constantly checking my phone, waiting for new messages or calls from her, hoping for some sign that she still loved me. There were moments of vulnerability when I thought of reaching out to her, but my pride held me back. I felt disoriented, lost in a world where trust was gone, and I was left to navigate my emotions alone. It was during one of these sleepless nights that the idea of revenge crept into my mind. I thought about how I could make her feel the same pain I was experiencing. Not that I wanted to hurt her, but I felt a deep need to make her understand the gravity of her betrayal. I imagined scenarios where I would confront Mark, where I would expose the affair and force Jessica to feel the weight of her actions. But there was a part of me that hesitated. I didn't want to lose myself in anger. I loved her, despite everything, and I knew I had to consider how I wanted to handle all of this. I wanted to find a resolution, but I feared that revenge would only deepen the wounds between us. I decided I would take some time to think things through. I needed to figure out what I genuinely wanted, whether that meant confronting her with everything or stepping away from a relationship that no longer felt real. The journey ahead would be difficult, but I realized I had to choose the right path, one that wouldn't just be about revenge but about finding peace. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, and let out a long, shaky breath. Whatever path I decided on, it would change everything. I just had to find the courage to make a decision that would shape my future. By the end of that week, my decision was made. There would be no more living in limbo. I was tired of pretending everything was okay while the truth gnawed at the edges of my sanity. I needed to confront Jessica again, but this time, it wouldn't be about accusations or blame. I was going to lay everything out on the table and see if there was any chance to salvage what was left of our marriage. That Saturday afternoon, I decided to initiate the conversation. I waited for her to come home from her yoga class, pacing around the living room as I replayed various scenarios in my head. My heart raced and I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I knew we needed to talk, but fear gripped me. What if she denied everything again? What if she just walked out? When Jessica walked through the door, her face lit up as she saw me. "Hey, I didn't expect you to be home," she said, a smile spreading across her lips. For a fleeting moment, I felt that spark from the past, but it quickly faded as I recalled our recent exchanges. "Hey," I replied, forcing a smile back. "Can we talk?" Her expression shifted immediately, the light dimming in her eyes. "Sure, what's up?" I gestured for her to sit down, and as she did, I took a seat across from her. "I think we need to address what's been going on between us. I can't just ignore it anymore." She crossed her arms defensively, and I could see the walls closing in around her. "Do we have to? I thought we were over that." "No, Jess, we can't just sweep it under the rug. I found your messages. I need to know what's really going on," I said, my voice steady but firm. She hesitated, biting her lip as if she were weighing her options. "I told you it was just a phase. I was feeling lonely and I didn't mean to hurt you." "That's not good enough." "It's not just a phase when you're texting another man about missing his touch. You're not understanding how serious this is, how much it hurts me," I urged, frustration creeping back into my tone. "Okay, fine, maybe I was wrong," Jessica finally exclaimed, her voice rising. "But you're always busy. You don't see what it's like being alone all the time. I felt disconnected from you and Mark was just easy." Her words struck a nerve. "Easy? Is that how you justify cheating on your husband? You had every opportunity to talk to me about how you felt. Instead, you chose to betray me." She looked down, tears forming in her eyes. "I know, I just got caught up in it all. It didn't mean anything, I swear. I love you and I want to make this work." The sincerity in her voice was hard to ignore, but I couldn't shake the doubts that consumed me. "You say you love me, but that love didn't stop you from texting him. How can I trust you again?" "I'll do anything to prove it to you," she pleaded, her eyes locking onto mine. "Just give me a chance." As I looked into her eyes, I saw the fear and desperation. On one hand, I wanted to believe her, to return to a time when trust existed between us. But on the other hand, the betrayal festered like a wound that refused to heal. "Trust isn't something you can just ask for," I said quietly. "It's earned. It's built over time. And right now, you've shattered everything we built together." We fell into a heavy silence, both of us wrestling with our emotions. I realized that despite the pain, I still felt a flicker of love for her. I wanted to believe that we could come back from this, but I was also terrified. "Maybe we need some space," I suggested, my heart heavy with the weight of my words. "I need to figure out if I can forgive you and if this marriage is worth saving." Her face crumpled. "Space? You can't be serious. I thought we were going to work on this together." "I can't do this right now, Jess. Not without some time to think." As the words left my mouth, I felt a sense of finality. I wasn't entirely ready to end things, but I also knew that putting distance between us would give me the clarity I needed. I stood up, feeling the tension crackling between us. "I'll be staying at my friend Mike's for a few days. I just need time." Jessica looked stunned, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You can't just leave. You said you love me." I nodded slowly, the ache in my heart intensifying. "I do love you, but love isn't enough if there's no trust. I need time to figure out if we can rebuild that trust." I walked out, feeling like I was leaving a part of myself behind. The moment I stepped out of the house, I felt the weight of the world lift a little, but it was quickly replaced with the heavy realization that this was only the beginning of a long and painful journey. As I drove to Mike's place, I felt like I was in a fog. I didn't know what the future held or if we could ever recover from this. I just knew that I had to find my way through this storm and figure out what I truly wanted. With each passing moment, I hoped to find clarity in the chaos that had become my life. Staying at Mike's house felt surreal. It was supposed to be a sanctuary, a place to regroup and think, but instead it felt like a prison of my own making. Each night I lay on his couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment with Jessica, her laughter, her smile, and the cold betrayal that now shadowed those memories. I missed her, but I was also furious. I spent the first few days avoiding calls from her, letting them go straight to voicemail. I couldn't bear to hear her voice, the way she'd try to reassure me that everything would be okay. I needed to process my feelings without her influence clouding my judgment. Every voicemail felt like a stab to my heart. She was pleading, crying, and sounding more desperate with each message. On the fourth day, I finally decided to pick up a call. "Mike's place," I said flatly when I answered, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Please, can we talk?" Jessica's voice trembled on the other end. "I can't take this anymore. I miss you. I miss us." Her words hit harder than I expected. I hesitated, my heart wavering. "What do you want to talk about, Jess?" "I want to explain everything. I want to show you that I can change," she replied, desperation dripping from her voice. "I can't fix this without you. We can make it better." I struggled with my emotions. "I don't know if I can trust you. I don't want to hear empty promises." "Just give me a chance to show you," she pleaded. "Meet me at the park tomorrow, please." Against my better judgment, I agreed. I figured it was time to hear her out, even if I didn't expect much. The next day I arrived at the park early, taking a moment to gather my thoughts. I sat on a bench watching families stroll by, kids laughing and playing, feeling completely out of place in my own world. When I saw Jessica approaching, my heart raced, not from excitement but anxiety. She looked different, as if the weight of the world rested on her shoulders. Her eyes were puffy from crying, and I felt a pang of sympathy, but I quickly pushed it aside. "Hey," she said softly as she sat next to me, avoiding eye contact. "Hey," I replied, my voice colder than I intended. "I'm sorry for how everything went down," she began, her hands clenching and unclenching in her lap. "I never meant to hurt you. I got caught up in my own loneliness and I didn't know how to handle it. It was a stupid mistake." "A mistake? Jess, it's more than a mistake. You went behind my back. You chose to betray me," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I know," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "And I regret it. It's eating me alive. I miss the way we were, the love we had. I'll do anything to earn your trust back." I studied her face, the mix of pain and sincerity. This was the raw side of her I hadn't seen in a while. "What makes you think I can trust you again? You knew what you were doing." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "I want to go to couples therapy. I want us to work through this together with professional help. I'll do whatever it takes. I know I messed up, but I believe we can fix it." Her suggestion surprised me. I'd always believed in the power of therapy, but I had thought it was something we'd do when we were solid, not now when our foundation was crumbling. "You really think that can fix this?" I asked, skepticism creeping into my voice. "It's a start," she murmured, her gaze finally meeting mine. "I want to show you that I'm serious about this, about us." I was flooded with conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell her that it was too late, that she had already broken something that might not be fixable, but another part of me still held on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need time to figure out if I can even believe in us again." "I understand," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "But just think about it, please." After our conversation, I left feeling more confused than ever. I still loved Jessica, but love felt different now, tainted by betrayal and uncertainty. I spent the next few days in a fog, pondering her suggestion about therapy. I was torn between wanting to fight for our marriage and fearing that I'd be left with more scars than I already had. During those nights at Mike's, I was restless. I reached out to my friends, seeking their opinions. Some urged me to move on, to cut my losses and start fresh. Others believed in the power of forgiveness and second chances. I took their advice to heart, but ultimately felt lost. I decided to take a small step, maybe. It was the first move toward healing. I called Jessica and agreed to meet again, this time to discuss therapy. I wasn't promising anything, but I felt that if we were going to move forward, we needed to lay the groundwork for what came next. When we met again, it was a different atmosphere. There was an undercurrent of tension, but also a sense of determination, at least on my part. I wanted to believe in the possibility of rebuilding our marriage. I wanted to believe that love could conquer betrayal, but I knew it would be a long, arduous journey. "Let's take this one step at a time," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "If we're going to do this, it has to be real. No more lies, no more secrets." Jessica nodded earnestly. "I promise. I'll do everything I can to prove to you that I'm committed to making this work. As we discussed potential therapists and set up a plan, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. It wouldn't be easy, but maybe we could find our way back to each other. Maybe this was the start of healing instead of revenge. But deep down, I knew that it would take more than just words and promises. It would require time, patience, and a lot of hard work. As we closed that chapter, I felt both apprehensive and hopeful. Only time would tell if our love could rise from the ashes of betrayal or if it was destined to remain a painful memory. As the days turned into weeks, our journey through couples therapy began. Stepping into that first session felt like stepping into the unknown. I had always thought of therapy as a place where people worked through their issues, but now, sitting there with Jessica, it felt like a trial, a test that would determine the fate of our marriage. Our therapist, Corinne, was welcoming but firm. She guided us through the process, helping us articulate our feelings and thoughts in ways that felt both vulnerable and exposing. The initial sessions were painful. I watched Jessica as she shared her side, her voice cracking as she confessed her feelings of loneliness and neglect. I listened, grappling with the nuances of her words. There was a part of me that wanted to empathize, to understand her struggles, but the other half of me was still grappling with the betrayal. I often found myself caught between anger and empathy. When she talked about her feelings of isolation, I cringed at the thought that I had contributed to that. I wanted to scream, but you could have come to me. There were moments when I felt the urge to withdraw, to leave the room and allow the walls to close in around me. But I also knew that if there was any hope of healing, I had to stay present. The sessions were structured, with Corinne guiding us through various exercises aimed at rebuilding trust. I remember one session where we were asked to write down things we appreciated about each other. As I sat there with my pen poised, staring at the blank paper, I felt paralyzed. Part of me wanted to remember the good times, but the other part of me was stuck in the pain of betrayal. Jessica looked over at me, her expression earnest. I know it's hard, but can you think of one thing? I took a deep breath, letting the frustration ebb for a moment. You always knew how to make me laugh, I finally said, the memory of her infectious laughter creeping back to me. I miss that. She smiled weakly, tears welling in her eyes. I miss making you laugh, I miss us. In that moment, I realized that despite everything, there was a flicker of our former selves still buried beneath the rubble of betrayal. With the help of therapy, we began to dig through the layers of hurt, one session at a time. Each week brought new revelations about ourselves, our marriage, and the reasons we had drifted apart. As the process continued, I started to regain a sense of control over my emotions. I began to express my feelings more openly, whether it was anger, sadness, or fear. Jessica, too, started to take responsibility for her actions, admitting that she had let her insecurities drive her to seek validation outside of our relationship. But even with this progress, there were moments when I would catch her off guard, asking pointed questions about Mark. Do you still talk to him? I'd demand one week, and she would look at me, fear etched on her face. No, I cut him off. I didn't want to hurt you anymore, she would reply, and I could see the sincerity in her eyes, even if there was still a flicker of guilt lurking beneath the surface. Our therapist encouraged us to set boundaries. No more contact with Mark. No more secrets. We both had to be transparent about our feelings and interactions. It was a hard line to toe, but it felt necessary. Each time we delved into the past, I felt the scars reopen, but I also felt the possibility of healing emerging from those wounds. As weeks passed, I began to find moments of joy again. I started to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with. Jessica began to surprise me with little gestures, leaving notes in my lunch, texting me sweet messages throughout the day, and even planning a small date night for us. They were small but significant steps toward rebuilding our relationship. One evening, after a particularly emotional therapy session, we found ourselves sitting on the couch in our living room, an unfamiliar yet familiar setting. I turned to Jessica, my heart racing. Do you think we can get through this? I asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. She looked at me, vulnerability spilling from her eyes. I want to believe we can. I want to fight for us, she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. I took a moment to reflect on her words. I want that too, but it's going to take time. It can't just be about therapy. We have to keep working at it every day. Absolutely, she agreed, nodding earnestly. I'm committed to doing whatever it takes. For the first time since this entire ordeal began, I felt a glimmer of hope. It was delicate and fragile, but it was there. I knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, and there would be more difficult conversations to navigate, but I was willing to try. As we sat there, our hands intertwined, I felt a flicker of warmth, a connection that had been missing for so long. Maybe we could rebuild what had been broken. Maybe love could be rekindled and trust could be restored. I realized that while the pain of her betrayal would always be a part of our story, it didn't have to define the ending. The healing process would be slow, but for the first time I felt optimistic about the future. We would take it one day at a time, navigating this complex web of emotions together. And no matter what, I was determined to fight for our love. Ultimately, that's what mattered most. As the weeks turned into months, our commitment to the therapy process began to yield results. It wasn't effortless. There were still tough conversations, moments of doubt, and emotional upheavals. But I felt a shift in our relationship. Each session brought us closer to understanding one another, and slowly we started to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. Jessica began to show her vulnerabilities more openly, sharing her insecurities and fears without the facade of denial. She acknowledged the loneliness that had pushed her into Mark's arms, and I learned to empathize with her struggles. In turn, I shared my own fears, how I worried about being an absent husband, how I feared losing her for good. This newfound openness became the cornerstone of our healing process. One evening, after a particularly intense session, we decided to take a walk in our neighborhood. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow as we strolled hand in hand, a stark contrast to the coldness that had once filled our living room. It was liberating to be outside together, sharing our thoughts without walls closing in around us. I've been thinking a lot about the future, Jessica said softly, breaking the comfortable silence, about how we can make this work. Me too, I replied, hoping my voice conveyed the sincerity I felt. I think we're on the right path, but we have to keep this up, you know? It can't just be words. I know, she nodded, a serious expression on her face. Every day is a choice. I choose you and I choose to be better. I want to rebuild what we had. I squeezed her hand gently, feeling a spark of hope igniting within me. It's a long road, but I'm willing to walk it with you as long as we're honest. In the following months, we committed to weekly date nights, which became our sanctuary. We explored new restaurants, revisited places that held special memories, and took time to laugh together. With every shared meal and every laugh, I felt the walls between us begin to crumble. We even started planning a small getaway, a chance to breathe life back into our relationship. Yet, even with the progress we made, the occasional remnants of doubt still lingered in the corners of my mind. There were nights when I would wake up, heart racing from dreams about betrayal or loss. I'd reach for Jessica, needing that reassurance that our marriage was solid. She'd always respond, her soft touch calming my fears as she murmured, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." One night as we cuddled on the couch, I turned to her, a question rising to the surface. "Do you think we'll ever get back to where we were, before everything happened?" Jessica paused, her expression contemplative. "I think we can create something new. It won't be the same, but I believe it can be better. We've learned so much about each other. This experience has forced us to confront what we both need." Her words resonated with me. I realized that while we had faced this devastating betrayal, we had also unearthed deeper understandings of ourselves and each other. In a way, this experience, as painful as it was, had opened the door to a more honest and authentic relationship. As we continued with therapy, I felt a shift in my perception of our marriage. It was no longer about reclaiming the past, but about building a new future together, one that was grounded in mutual respect, open communication, and a deeper understanding of our individual needs. Months later, on a warm evening, we found ourselves sitting on the back porch, sipping wine and watching the sunset. It was a peaceful moment, and I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. There was laughter, lightness in the air, and a comfort that felt familiar yet new. "Remember when we used to sit out here just talking about everything and nothing?" I asked, a smile creeping onto my face. Jessica laughed, her eyes sparkling. "Yeah, I do. It feels like ages ago." "I never thought we'd get back to this," I admitted, my heart full. "Neither did I," she replied, reaching for my hand. "But here we are. We're still standing, and I think we're stronger for it." In that moment, I realized that love isn't just about the beautiful moments. It's about weathering storms together and coming out the other side with a deeper appreciation for each other. It's about choosing to show up despite the pain, despite the uncertainty. As we watched the last rays of sunlight dip below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace settle within me. Our journey was far from over, and I knew there would still be challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long while, I felt confident that we could face whatever came our way. Jessica squeezed my hand, interrupting my thoughts. "I love you," she said, her voice a soft melody. "I love you too, Jess," I replied, the weight of those words filling the space between us. "Let's keep moving forward together." And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, I knew that whatever the future held, we would face it side by side, ready to embrace the next chapter of our life together.